In this video, we will see the shockingly simple exercise that most beginners struggle with. When I was teaching, about half my class would get this wrong on the first day of class. Then we will learn the surprising reason why most beginners struggle with this particular exercise. And then I will teach you the correct way of thinking. So before I present to you the exercise, we have to do a little bit of review. Here is a simple 2-line JavaScript program on the left-hand side. And what this JavaScript program does is it outputs the number 3 to the screen. This is very typical introductory JavaScript code that all beginners understand in their own way. Here is a question for you, the audience, to find out if the material we just saw actually got absorbed. So we have a program with 2 variable declarations. And then on the third line, I have an assignment, a equals a plus 1. And finally, a console log a. So the variable a initially is 3, but because of line number 3, it becomes 4. So the correct answer is 4. Here is another question very similar to the last. The only difference is this last line. So instead of console log a, we're going to console log b. Now on line number 2, we see that b equals a. And on line number 3, we see that a equals a plus 1. So we know at the end of this program that a is equal to 4. The question is, when we go to console log b, what do we get? Let me start by explaining the incorrect way of thinking and how many beginners think about this problem. When they see let b equals a, they think that b and a are exactly the same thing. In the same way that in your math classes, if I wrote x equals 3, x and 3 are basically the same thing. However, this is not correct. It's very confusing because in our math class, the equality symbol, and in a general culture too, the equality symbol means sameness. But this is not the case in programming. If we were to use the incorrect way of thinking, we would say that the output of this program is 4 because a equals 4 and b equals a. Right? This is 100% wrong. Let me show you the correct way of thinking. So this is the CompuThink tool, which is used by students to learn how computers actually think. And right now I'm in the middle of demonstrating the solution to the last exercise. So let's go over the whole solution step by step. First, you create a variable called a, and the value of this variable is 3. And then we create a variable called b, and the value of this variable is 3. So all the variables are stored in a 2-column table in this way. And this is not just in JavaScript, this is in all programming languages. Then a becomes 4, however, b has not changed. Variables are all independent of each other. And because b has not changed, when you go to console log, you're going to console log 3. So let's cover another example. In this case, I have a variable x, and on the right-hand side of the equal sign, I have an object with one property foo, with a value of 2. On the next line, I'm going to console log x.foo. x.foo is equal to 2. We know that because of the first line. Here is another example. The only difference here is on the second line, I increase the value of the property. So the value of the property initially is 2, but because of the second line, it becomes 5. When you go to console log, you're going to console log 5. So my question to the audience is, what if we add an equality on the second line, let y equals x? which is very similar to what we did last exercise. So what do you think the output of this program will be? If you want to work it out, pause this video right now and try to think about it. Let me give you the incorrect way of thinking. The incorrect way of thinking is that x and y are completely independent, and therefore modifying x does not modify y. That's an example of an incorrect way of thinking. Another incorrect way of thinking is that x and y are the same thing because of the equality. We saw in the last exercise that this is not the case. So how do we actually think about this program? Or what is actually going on when a computer runs this program? Well, first we have to create an object. The property foo and a value of 2. Objects are just tables with 2 columns. And next we create a variable x that will have a reference to this object. And then we create a variable y that will have a reference to the same object. So the variables x and y are independent. However, they both contain references to the same object. And when you modify that object on line number 3, y.foo and x.foo are actually the same quantity. So we console log 3. So that is the correct way of thinking about programming. This is how a computer actually thinks about code and how the computer's memory changes over time as it's interpreting code. It's very important for a programmer to understand these things. Otherwise, they will not understand what programs do and will not be able to read or write it. This tool is available right now, and you can go ahead and visit this link. To start learning exactly how a computer thinks and train your brain to think like a computer.